Let me take you back to April 2020. We in the UK were in the midst of our first national lockdown, and like many of you, I'm sure, I resorted a fair amount of my time to Netflix. Personally, I was really into watching documentaries, and I happened to be watching one to do with sports coaches. The episode I was watching one day highlighted NBA and former Boston Celtics coach Doc Rivers, and in 2008, Rivers won the Celtics their first NBA championship in over 20 years. After the film presents a highlight reel of the feats they achieved in their triumphant year, the interviewer asks Rivers a simple question: how did you win? Rivers replies, Ubuntu. The interviewer is confused and asks Rivers to repeat, and I too was a bit perplexed. But Rivers only says, Ubuntu. The film then cut to his former players being asked the same question. And can you guess what they replied? Ubuntu. Now sitting there in front of my TV screen thinking, wow, I need to get my hands on this incredible protein supplement. Right away, I hopped onto the internet and searched Ubuntu food supplement. Your search, Ubuntu food supplement, did not come up with any results. Okay, fine, no problem. I searched Ubuntu on its own, and to my surprise, I discovered that it was a South African philosophy. After doing more research on Ubuntu, I stumbled across books, videos, and lectures, and looking back, the day I found Ubuntu was the day my life changed for the better. Today, I want to focus on how we can apply Ubuntu with sports and with self, but ultimately, how we can embody the essence of Ubuntu in life, together. First, I need to explain what Ubuntu is. You're probably sitting there thinking it's still a protein supplement. Ubuntu is a Xhosa word from South Africa that simply means, I am only because you are, or I am because we are. However, the concept of Ubuntu is found in almost all Afro-Bantu languages. The philosophy centers itself around the idea of respect for all human beings and looking to the person next to you in their eyes and acknowledging their humanity. Ubuntu is more than a word, it's a way of life, but it can be summarized with some key concepts such as unity, dignity, acknowledging reality, hope, forgiveness, celebration of diversity, and empathy. Now, I love sports. Sports and music are the bedrock of my life, and I'm a fan of almost all sports, except cricket is boring. But the two I engage most in are boxing and football. To say Ubuntu has helped me with sports would be an understatement. After seeing how united the Boston Celtics were in their championship year, how they went through and felt everything together, I knew if Ubuntu was applied to more teams, then more greatness could be achieved through consistency. I am only because you are means teams are not built up of groups of individuals attempting to outshine one another, but rather a collective unit striving towards their goals, pushing their limits and seeking success together. It really is amazing what can be achieved when teams come together in unison, and I'm sure many of you would be able to name a number of teams with great chemistry and drive for success. For instance, the Arsenal Invincibles, who went a whole season unbeaten, a team we definitely won't forget, are Leicester City, from just surviving relegation to English champions. And as average as their season has been, one cannot overlook Liverpool. From losing the Champions League to winning it the next year, but in that same year losing the Premier League to winning it the next year. Everyone on that team, the players, the staff, the coaches, were all on the collective mission to reclaim these trophies, even if it did take them 30 years. Chelsea fan, by the way. Surprisingly, however, it was individual sports where Ubuntu guided me the most. Now, I don't know if any of you have ever walked into a boxing gym, but walking into one for the first time, second time, even the 50th time is, well, no walk in the park. As you can imagine, there's a lot of anger, aggression, attitude expressed by the people in a boxing gym. The energy is electric, but for me at least, it can cause some anxiety. For a long time, even though I'll not be fighting any of those guys in actual bouts, I viewed everyone who walked into that gym as an enemy. And there was one guy in particular, same age as me, who took a disliking to me, and in return I did the same. Every session we sparred, and every session we left a piece of ourselves in that ring. You've seen the Thriller in Manila, but have you seen the dungeon in South London? There's no escape when you get into that ring. Eventually, I think we both came to the realization that this was affecting our progress. Throwing haymakers, lack of technique, lack of discipline. But I wasn't ready to put my pride aside. I was ready to go to war. But one session we sparred, it was a little different. This guy came out as a boxer with class, elegance, grace, and it forced me to change my usual puncher style, and I'm better off because of it. Don't get me wrong, we still went to war, but it was one of strategy rather than who's got the biggest guns. But what I distinctly remember causing my paradigm shift was what he did after the session. After we sparred, I had a lot of blood gushing from my nose, and as I'm walking to the toilet to clean myself, I see him walk out with some towels, some tissues, and some water. He offers them to me, takes me to a seat and says, "That was the best spar I've had in a while. We're going to make each other better. This is Ubuntu. I am only because you are." After this experience and doing more reading on Ubuntu, walking into the boxing gym became less daunting and more loving, like walking into your home with your family, your community. I accepted we're all on our own individual missions, but through interdependence, we can reach our goals a lot quicker and be happier when we or others reach them. There's an African proverb that states, if you want to go quickly, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. More often than not, in sports and life, the captain is not the leader. We tend to associate the captain as the person who wears the armband and tend to neglect the rest of the team as if their voice is less important. But this is so far from the truth. A captain is a person who can effectively carry out tasks required in their field of work. A leader is someone who influences people in all aspects of life. Sometimes the captain is also the leader, but Ubuntu teaches us we can all be leaders. Not me, but we. First and foremost, this means being the leader of your own life, not in a selfish way that many self-help philosophies may preach, but in a way that demonstrates you have respect for others, thus you have respect for yourself, because the better you are, the better I will be. Ubuntu is not a matter of respecting yourself first and others second, but instead looking within to show others and ourselves respect at the same time. Ultimately, it's about being proactive and responding to any given situation with dignity. In return, this stimulates interdependence, because being the leader of your own life encourages others to be the leader of theirs. We are all leaders. Acknowledging all of our humanities brings us one step closer to realizing it. Ubuntu is so much more than sports, though. While Ubuntu can bring about great leaders in the dressing room, it's in personal life and collective struggle where I feel its spirit is most needed and valued. Ubuntu teaches us it's not good to sit with resentment, and that forgiveness is key, because not only does it bring clarity of mind to the person who's angered, it brings clarity of mind to all of our lives. When Nelson Mandela was asked who he wished to invite to his presidential inauguration dinner, he insisted his former jailer on Robben Island, Christo Brown, was invited. By then, Mandela and Brown's friendship became public knowledge and allowed other people in South Africa to reconsider whether they were able to forgive perpetrators of harm in their own lives. One man's forgiveness made the rest of the nation's journey to unity a lot easier. Maya Angelou once described bitterness as like a cancer that eats upon the host. And while our emotions towards someone may be justified, Ubuntu asks us, what happens to our soul if we choose not to forgive? The reason why leaders like Mandela, Martin Luther King Jr., Mahatma Gandhi, Archbishop Desmond Tutu were so effective in their rebellions and spreading their message across the world was that they preached forgiveness. However, not because their persecutors were worthy of it, but rather so they could put their self-righteousness and pride aside and lead collective movements that help with the betterment of society. Their messages transcended their times, and to this day give us hope when looking towards the future. Who forgives wins. A simple African proverb, but one that only the strong can follow. To say Ubuntu has helped me with life would be a huge understatement. The philosophy has humbled me, healed me, and made me realize I don't need a protein supplement to excel at sports. Every day I wake up, I want to embody Ubuntu, feel what I am because we are means, and attempt to help my fellow human beings. Ubuntu is not an exclusive philosophy. It's something I passionately believe we can all strive towards. Even I, a flawed individual, sometimes arrogant, sometimes resentful, sometimes scared, had my soul touched by this beautiful philosophy. And here I am, talking to you about my journey to becoming both a better listener and a leader, a better learner and a teacher. As I said, we can all be leaders. And if you ever doubt yourself, let me leave you with one last African proverb. Whenever you think you are too small to make a difference, try to fall asleep with a mosquito in the room. Thank you.